All right, my fishing friends, we're not in North Carolina. We are actually in the Florida Keys. We're down here to do some fishing on the Patch Reef. All right, let's go. So the real reason we went to Florida was to visit my son Joshua. He's a wildlife biologist down there. He has a dog named Percy who's trained to sniff out pythons, and Josh took me out on a python hunting expedition, but I'm not allowed to tell you about it because it's all top secret government work. But what we did do right after that was go to the Worldwide Sportsman. Now, if you've never been to the Worldwide Sportsman, it could be sort of a tourist trap, but it is a fishing gear store for the most part. It's 2 stories. You can take the elevator. On the upper floor, mostly women's clothing. On the lower floor, they have men's clothing, but also just a huge amount of fishing gear, including fly fishing, saltwater fishing gear, even some boating equipment. And they even have this giant puffer on the wall to inspire you to want to go out and catch a giant puffer or a shark. You know, some people like to shark fish. Hey, that's cool. I want to catch one just like that. Downstairs, in the middle of the store, they actually have a replica of the sister ship of Hemingway's boat, which I'm interested in because I like to write, and Hemingway is one of my favorite writers. So what I didn't know on the second floor was there's actually a secret room with a bar in it, and there's a lot of stuff about Hemingway up there, and you can even sit at the bar and be like Hemingway and drink a shot of whiskey. I didn't actually get to do that, but next time I go down, I might just take a stop in and check it out. Now, if Worldwide Sportsman is not a tourist trap, Robbies certainly is. Now, one thing is, if you're down with a local like Joshua, he will show you all the secret stuff. And one thing he showed me was like, do you want to see the duck room? And I was like, yeah, let's check it out. So he actually took me out back and showed me the duck room. They even have their own little pool back there for the ducks, so it was pretty fancy. I'll tell you what. But most people don't go to Robbies to see the duck room. They go down there to feed the tarpon. Now, they must make a lot of money selling fish to feed the tarpons. They have so much they can staple it to their ceiling, and I guess they also make some money off of selling t-shirts. I fed the tarpon. The only thing you can't do with the tarpon is pull them out of the water, which doesn't seem to make a lot of sense if you're a fisherman. Anyway, you're trying to feed these tarpon, but really what you have to do is fight off the local wildlife, like the pelicans and the man-eating manatees. These things, I guess, have developed to become carnivorous creatures who want to eat flesh with their giant teeth. And so this guy was swimming around wanting the fish. And the birds, of course, which tried to attack us, also wanted the fish. But we did get a bucket of fish, and Joshua got to feed the tarpons, which is kind of cool because you think about it, like that's what it looks like when it comes up for your bait when you're fishing, right? So we did have kind of a fun time at Robbies, even if it's a tourist trap. And on my way out, I got to stop and see a bunch of bobbleheads and shake them. So after that, we had to move on to our next stop. And then I guess everyone was thirsty, so our next stop was the Florida Keys Brewing Company. So you go in and it's kind of a fun place. They've got all bottle caps glued to the wall and makes all this art with the bottle caps, which is kind of cool. But you're there to get some beer, I guess. Chef Kim decided she would get a flight of beer to share with her friend Sylvie, and I actually got an IPA. I don't drink a lot of beer anymore because the sugar, my blood sugar's high, but I was like, I'm on vacation, I'm going to treat myself. One IPA won't hurt. Then we sat down, played a game of Apples to Apples. Joshua's word was cute, and I thought, what's the most cutest card I have? Rush Limbaugh. But Josh didn't go for it, so I didn't win.
And after 9 days, I let the horse run free, cause the desert turned to sea. There were plants and birds and rocks and things, there were sand and hills and green.
Then it was time to get down to business. We actually went to a local bait shop. I guess we could have bought everything at the Wild World Sportsman, but we didn't. So we stopped in at this local bait shop and just went in the back, and they had some equipment back there, and I just picked up some hooks, some jig heads, some soft plastics that we'd use when we go out to our patch reef. And then you had to pay up front for the bait, and then they had to go around back and get the bait and bring it to you. So I was like, all right, that's cool, let's do it. We went back, stood there, and she kind of came around and gave us our bait and put it in a bag, and so we got some shrimp and we're ready to go. And then it was time to get down to business. So we got on the boat and it took us out to some fishing spots, and we didn't catch any fish, but we did catch this sea turtle on camera, and that was pretty cool because he was pretty big. But then I was like, well, let's stop for lunch, and you guys can explain to me why we're not catching any fish, because I think we're going to good spots.
We're not catching any fish, so we had to stop at Hog Heaven. Captain Josh, Captain Kellyanne. They're in the shadows. What? Why aren't we catching any fish?
Because your dad wants to fish in sand.
I'm looking for sand sharks. That's why we're fishing in the sand.
Sand.
That's where they live. in the
Sandy
sand.
waters.
So
Because they're the sands.
we're gonna get some lunch, then we're gonna try again.
So anyway, after lunch we got back on the boat and I decided to take us to a patch reef. Now what I'm calling a patch reef, it's just an area of seagrass and rocks amongst all the sand. And if you look in the water here, you can see the darker areas, that's where we're fishing, and the lighter area is just sand. Where there aren't any fish, we're trying to fish in the structure. And as soon as we started fishing, we were catching fish, like this yellowtail snapper, I believe, and this white grunt. And we were pulling them up pretty much right away. So this was a good little spot, especially a lot of white grunts. And it's a couple of big ones, so I put some in the live well there. That's when Kellyanne caught. That's probably the biggest one. We're going to keep a couple and make fish tacos and then let the rest go. I think this is a yellow jack. Again, I'm not an expert in the Florida fish species at all, but that's what Joshua told me. And then he caught this pork fish. He called it a pork fish, which is a beautiful fish. It looks like it belongs in a fish tank or something like that, like a tropical fish tank. Now, most everybody else was just using shrimp on a double drop rig. I was using a jig head, and I had a little artificial shrimp on there, and we were all doing fairly well catching the fish, just one after another. Now again, we're not fishing for anything fancy here, mostly just, like I said, white grunts, snapper, but it was a lot of fun. And just to get a day out on the water, it was a beautiful day, a lot of sunshine, and just having a lot of fun fishing. All right, so then we went back to the marina where we were staying, actually on a houseboat, which is kind of cool. And we had a little bit of bait left over. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to take a piece of shrimp, I'm going to put it on this jig head. And I saw some fish hanging out underneath the dock. And I'm like, I'm just going to throw it out here underneath this dock, the shrimp, and just trying to drag it along there real slow, bounce it off the bottom, and see if I can get a fish. And pretty much as soon as I popped it in there, boom, I got a hit, which was kind of cool. So I reeled him in, and you know what I was hoping for? Was a mangrove snapper. So I wanted to catch some mangrove snapper because that's like my favorite fish to catch and to eat, and we wanted to have some fish tacos, and all we had was a white grunt. And I pulled him in, and it was not a mangrove snapper. I think this is a blue stripe grunt. I think the blue stripe grunts, you can tell the difference between them and the white grunts because the stripes go all the way down. And I think this is another blue stripe grunt right here that Joshua caught, possibly. So I wasn't interested in the blue stripe grunt, but I was interested in this bad boy. Yes, the mangrove snapper. And we caught a couple of mangrove snapper and actually got a couple of decent ones. And I did get to keep one and have fish tacos. So that was kind of cool. So just having some fun, catching some fish right underneath the dock, which is kind of funny that we spent the whole day out on a boat trying to find a patch reef. We could have just fished off the back of the houseboat and caught these fish. Another mangrove snapper, nice. And then I caught a crab, and I was playing around with it, and this is a lesson learned right here in stupidity. If you catch the crab and you're not holding it right, they will grab onto you, and it can be quite painful and difficult to get the crab off.
Cooking them on a grill. Oh yeah. What do we got here? Mangrove snapper. Yum. Ready to cook it on the grill?
Here,
See how
Chef
it comes
Kim.
Got my famous fish tacos.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, what kind of fish did you catch?
Mangrove snapper.
It's mangrove snapper. And what I did was, right here I did a little cilantro with avocado and mango, and a little kind of like squirt of lime, and
What's this
some
one
red
here?
onion. And then I did a pepper kind of medley, and then some Mexican rice.
Now Josh doesn't look like he's eating fish at all. Captain Josh.